There was another kid, his shoulder was pretty loose. I took care of him. He was on the opposing team because a lot of opposing teams don't have doctors or trainers. If anything happens on our sideline, we'll look out for him until you get somebody over here. And if you don't, we'll look out for him. And so this kid was a patient in the Vassar office, but he was an opposing school, and his shoulder came out. He's like, oh, Dr. Sally. And I was like, hey, so-and-so. I was like, what happened? He's like, oh, it's my shoulder. He's like, just put it back in. And I'm like, so I get up under his pads, which as a girl, that's real special in that sweat and everything. I was like, my hand's never going to smell the same again. And I get up in there and I just went like that, and it stops there. It didn't stop. I was like, no, I'm not putting that back in.
Welcome to another episode of Small Town Grit. I'm your host, Corey Haubs, and I got a special guest, Dr. Sally Blossom, with us today. Welcome, Sally.
Thank you.
Are you excited?
I am. Woo.
Are you nervous?
A little bit nervous,
You don't
but I'm
seem
excited.
nervous. I think I'm nervous. I'm sweating here. So
I couldn't tell.
I see we coordinated our outfits today.
We did.
So you got a lot going on.
Yes.
You're involved with your family practice there, fourth generation at Dr. Blossom Chiropractic, right?
Yep.
And then you started your own practice.
Just started up.
This year, huh?
Yep, February.
In Bay City.
In Bay City. February 14th I opened on the days that I'm not here in Vassar. So here in Vassar, I'm here Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and every other Saturday. And then I'm in my new office in Bay City Mondays and Wednesdays. So
wow,
it's a little crazy right now, but it's fun. It's fun.
So how did you, obviously your dad's in the business.
Yes.
Is that what inspired you to...
Yeah, so obviously my father, huge inspiration for me, and grandpa and great-grandpa too, but I didn't really know great-grandpa. Mm-hmm. And it turns out my great-grandma was a chiropractor as well, but she never practiced because she was raising 5 boys. So in 1926, mm-hmm. that's what she did. So my love of chiropractic started. I always like to say I was born with it because I was adjusted at 6 hours old. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't know any different growing up my whole entire life. I didn't realize that not everybody gets adjusted,
mm-hmm.
All their life. And so when I saw the benefits of being a chiropractic kid, as I like to say, the health benefits and all that stuff, I was like, oh, this would be fun. And I liked the science and not so much the math, but the science part of it. I was like, I could do this. And then I went to school, and then I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
And was a poli-sci major for a good while. And I was a semester away from graduating with a political science public administration degree. And I went to a seminar with my dad in Arizona. And the guy that was leading it, Dr. Fred Schofield, said, you know, what's stopping you from living the life of your dreams? And I was like, chemistry. Chemistry's stopping me right now. But I talked to my dad and grandpa, and they're like, you're letting that one small aspect of that stop you. So I was like, So then I went home, and I looked at applying to chiropractic school. And I did. And I got my acceptance. I didn't tell my dad I was doing it. I got my acceptance letter just before his birthday that year. Mm-hmm. So it's been back in 2000, I think. And I gave it to him in his birthday card and announced that I was going to go to chiropractic school. So that started me on that journey. So moved out to Iowa, where I'd lived once before as a young girl. Well, he was there and did all the things that you have to do to graduate from chiropractic school. So.
Yeah. Thank you to our sponsors. IRD Homes, Mid-Michigan's top contractor, bringing new builds and renovations to life. Timber Oaks. Timber Oaks offers customized lawn and landscape solutions and is a premier Mid-Michigan lawn care company. Link Excavation, your Mid-Michigan excavating experts, serving Bay, Tuscola, Saginaw, Huron, and Genesee counties. So what's the process with your dad is involved in this? Is he very encouraging? Was he like, do whatever? Was it that final push that he said, what's stopping you to pursue this? He just kind of...
It wasn't, when he did that, it wasn't, him and Grandpa did that, it wasn't like, why aren't you doing this? It was more like, think about this. And then I just didn't say anything more, and then I surprised him, and so he cried. and got all emotional. And he looked, and I'll never forget, he looked at me and he said, I thought we were done. He said, I thought I was it. I thought I was it. And so it was really cool. So fast forward through 5.5 years, and it was a crazy 5.5 years. School is tough, and all the tests, the national boards that you have to take, all that stuff is tough. And then getting diagnosed with a congenital heart defect in the middle of it, and having to take time off and go back. I mean, it was a process. It was well worth it. But then I got to stand on stage, and my dad and my grandpa got to hand me my diploma when I walked across.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, that was the coolest moment there. So then I graduated, and I came back here, and I don't think neither one of us was ready for me to be in the office, because, of course, I knew everything when I graduated. I knew the perfect way to run a practice. I knew not really at all. So we did have the, plus I'm his daughter, so there's that, factor, and we were butting heads a lot, and I just decided that I'd, look at going elsewhere for a little while till we could figure it out, because he'd never had an associate. I'd never been anywhere else other than the student clinic at Palmer. So he was always very supportive, though. And so I just always felt like no matter what, I'd have a soft place to land, no matter in school, like when I was moving home for half a year while we figured out what was going on with my heart. Very supportive there. Or, I don't know how many times I called him crying, being like, why is this so hard? Like the first 2 years of chiropractic school is really, really rigorous and really, really tough. And I'd failed a couple of classes by like 2 points. And you're just like, why? And now I have to take this whole class again. He was always really, really super, super supportive. And then was very supportive when I wanted to go to Ireland. So he's like, go, just go. And so then, being over there, and then of course coming back came back in 2015. So
were you to Ireland before you went to work? No.
I had
You're
never
like, I'm just going to go.
I'm just going to go. That's exactly how that went. I had never been there. I was looking for jobs, and I was on Palmer. That's the college that I went to for chiropractic school. I was on their website, and it said opportunities outside North America. I was like, let's see what's up there. And there was one for Galway, Ireland, and I read the description. I'm like, I could do that. And I sent my CV off, and they called and they interviewed, and a couple months later I was hired. And the first time I ever set foot in that country was the day I moved there. So in retrospect, people are like, you are crazy. And I'm like, I just had this overwhelming sense that I didn't want to be 80 and wonder what if. I was, how old was I? I was 31 when I graduated chiropractic school. I was like, I'm not married. I don't have kids. If I'm ever going to do it, now's the time. It was going to be for 2 years, and it ended up being for 6.5, but I never had been there. I was like, okay, we're going to figure this out. Why not?
What unique experiences did you have there?
So many. Just living in another country, and yes, they speak English, but it's not the same English as we have here. They also speak Irish, which I didn't know was a thing till I moved over there. That was unique in and of itself, and just like learning the different words for things. Like over there, a sweater's a jumper, or a stroller's a pram.
A jumper.
I'm gonna put my jumper on. What else? Like, I'd like to talk about the weather, because it's just so funny over there. Summer is pretty typically cool. Like average temp was 63 where I lived. So if it got above like 70, people were dying. And like, oh, Jesus, the heat, it's splitting the rocks, and, all that kind of thing. And they'd be issuing heat advisories for the equivalent of like 75 or 78 degrees here. And I was like, okay. My favorite forecast I ever heard was when the lady was like, and there's a risk of sun today. I was like, sun is risky? Like, a risk of sun? I'd be like, maybe rain, yes, but not sun. And Then, they issued a blizzard warning. I'm like, what? How much snow are we going to get? I'm thinking we're going to get heaps and heaps of snow. And my front desk manager was like, oh, no, it's only like 2 centimeters, which was about 2.5 inches or whatever 2.5 inches equivalent was. I'm like, that's a dusting. That's not a blizzard.
Right.
But, everything's shutting down. Schools are being called off for days. I'm like, what is going on? So those were unique. I got to travel around a lot living there because it's just easy and it's cheap to travel around over there. So I got to go to Norway a couple times. I got to go to Spain a lot because there was a chiropractic seminar I'd go to for continuing education that was on the Costa del Sol of Spain. So that was real tough. I got one time it was in Barcelona, and that was a cool kind of full circle moment because I graduated Vassar in 1994, and I had Senora Kimberly for Spanish class all 4 years of high school, and I remember I think it was in 1992 the Olympics were in Barcelona, and I got my Barcelona Olympics t-shirt for our Spanish fundraiser, and I wore it proudly for years, never thinking that I'd ever get to Barcelona. So when I went there, I saved for the last day, I saved that I'd go to the Olympic Village. And I was like, wow, from small town girl in Vassar, Michigan, never believing you'd get to Barcelona. And here I am.
Yeah.
That was a pretty cool moment. Being in Galway for the ocean race, the Volvo ocean race, which is a huge around the world ocean race with sailboats and stuff, and having that happen, that was insane. That was the first weekend I moved there, and I didn't realize that Galway wasn't always like that. Galway was a pretty fun, vibrant town, but that place was just electric that weekend. I'm like, I've moved to the best place ever, and I don't know why people complain about the weather because it was like 75 and sunny, and then literally the boats left out of Galway Bay and the rain came in, and it did not stop for 40 days. It rained every day for 40 days. I was like, okay. I take it back. But yeah, I could talk for hours and hours and hours about Ireland and just all the different experiences and people that I got to meet there and that I'm still friends with and still love so much over there and keep in touch with. And but yeah, it was quite the experience.
Yeah. So then, so what year did you come back to?
2015.
Okay.
October
And did you come
2015.
back to the family practice then, or are you still kind of transitioning lightly with?
It took a little bit of time for me to reestablish my license here.
Oh, okay.
Because I didn't keep up with my continuing ed credits over in Ireland because I was actually working on living there permanently. Didn't think I was going to come back. But God has other plans. So you just do.
Yeah.
You just go where He leads you. And so like, okay. So I came back here in 2015 and I was in the office kind of doing front desk stuff. And then I started practicing, I think it was December or January in 2016.
Okay.
I've been there ever since.
Yeah, so like I have that relationship with my kids. I've had them work with me early, and it's like we just butt heads. And then our middle son Jacob came back to work this year, and he's in his mid-20s, and we're in a different place now. It's kind of a better relationship, and I'm still trying not to be his boss. I'm just like, talk to this person, So. So do you guys still kind of have that butt heads a little bit, or you guys have a common ground now that, because I always loved your dad. I have most of them, right? Awesome. And he's never really yelled at me because we've done work for him for, 15 years or so. And he's always just like, Corey, this is what I got going on. And he explains what is going on. I was like, I understand that we fixed the situation, but he's never got upset about it. And it's, And
that's how he is for the most part, unless any one of us does anything to really tick him off. But he's keeps things on a very even keel. And unless you really tick him off, like I don't even, there was a funny story about Dish Network was really ticking him off up north over Thanksgiving, and he couldn't watch football, and he's on with Dish Network, and he'd kept it very calm and civil for most, and then he just, the the guy he was dealing with, that was all on speaker, was not being very helpful or nice, and then he just started losing it. And he's like, I played college football. We're like, and he's like, I want to see my team. Needless to say, we got the football game somehow. I don't know how we managed that out, but him and I, our working relationship's really good. We more of colleagues now than a boss employee.
Yeah.
But that's taken some time for me not to be his not little girl, but like his girl, his child versus a successful professional woman, because and he knows that, but it's hard to translate that over sometimes. So now we're in a really cool spot where we're working together, and he will get my opinion on something and I'll give it freely, and same thing with him, and it's cool, and it's also really comforting to me being in the office. Like, if he's looked at x-rays and MRIs for over 40 years now. And so when I see something and I'm like, I don't think that's right, but I don't know what it is. I can just call back to his office and be like, hey, Dad, I need your eyes up here. And I'll be like, okay, I'm coming. He'll come up and I'll go, well, let me in there, because it's a little room there. So he'll go and he'll be like, yeah, well, here's what you're looking at, Sal. He'll give me the rundown, and I'm like, okay, thanks. It's like, well, I knew it wasn't right, or sometimes it is fine. It's just like a weird malformation that is of no consequence to the patient that's in there. But he's like, good eye, and I'm like, thanks. Or if I bring up something and I'll go, I didn't see it that way. So he's really good like that.
So we talked a little bit before we came in here, and you're creeping up on 100 years.
100 years. Yep. So I believe it's 2026 will be 100 years
in the family business. Always in Vassar or no?
It began, I believe, I want to say, over on the west side, like Sparta, where great grandpa was, but soon he came here, and he was down behind the old bank building where the other chiropractor in town is, who I lived above. Yeah. That's fun. Trado, he went to Palmer. He's a really good guy. So great grandpa had a practice behind that building that is not there anymore. And then he owned the funeral, I think it's Hanlon.
Hanlon's down,
Hanlon. That was where he was. Then he went up there, and then Grandpa and Dad were there. And then Grandpa went to Flint. Dad went to Uncle Dave out on Soane Road. And then Dad was kind of starting to outgrow what Uncle Dave wanted to do. And so then Dad started his own up by the old IGA. Okay. And that's not there anymore, that little building. And then he bought Dr. Shelp and Dr. Martin's, which was my grandpa, my other grandpa's office. Okay. Dr. Martin. And coincidentally now, my husband's grandpa Shelp as well. Their office, he bought that, and then they renovated it, and that's where.
What year was that renovation? That's a nice looking building there.
Like 20 years ago?
Okay.
Yeah, about 20 years ago, like 2004, 2005-ish. It was while I was at Palmer, and I was at Palmer from 2001 late 2001 to 2007.
So is there different types of chiropractic? Or is it the same? Everybody gets the little crack, 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 snap, snap, snap.
Nope. No. No, not everybody's doing ringer dingers or whatever that craziness is on YouTube. People come in, they're like, do you do that thing with the towel?
You know what I love seeing on YouTube or on social media is when they do the pets.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fun. Amazing.
Those are fun. Animal chiropractic is super awesome. And I've adjusted a couple of dogs with my activator. Now there's a whole certification you can go through and stuff just for dogs and horses. Horse chiropractic is huge. But
the facial expressions of the animals after they get cracked is just hilarious.
Have you seen the guy with the giraffe?
No.
Oh, you gotta look up giraffe getting adjusted. It is so sweet. So the guy's like got his arms all around him, and he just does it, and the giraffe just like hugs him. It's the cutest thing ever.
I'll have to check that.
Yeah.
That's kind of like my nighttime, like
adjusting animals videos. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
But people adjusting. So there's a bunch of different schools in the United States, and then some around the world as well. There are over, I think, 120 different techniques, chiropractic techniques.
Oh my gosh.
As of now. So there's the big ones, we call them, that Palmer package, they call it, because Palmer was where it was founded. So it's Gonstead. It's the ones that you generally think of when is that?
That's a train.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, is that
It's not
thunder?
It's not coming through the building.
Okay.
I promise you.
I was like, is that thunder? Do we need to take shelter? So yeah, 120 different techniques. Main ones being taught at most of the colleges here in the United States. So you've got the manual adjustments, the cracky poppies, the pretzels, like where you're doing the side posture, all that kind of stuff. Drops, but there are other techniques, and we use a couple of them in our office that are non-force, low force for people like that have osteoporosis. You don't want to go in and adjust them very rigorously or anything, or babies. Yes, we adjust babies. People are like, oh, you adjust babies? They don't have back pain. I'm like, yeah, but they have a spine and a nervous system. So you want to keep that clear and connected because it just helps with health and all that stuff, colic, so many things. So you can just use little instruments or just, like little pressure, no more than you'd put touch your eyeballs with. And so it's just learning different things, having, a few of those techniques in your pocket that you can use, because not one technique works for every single person that comes into your office, because every single person that walks in is different and has different needs or wants or problems, if you will, that are...
I got lots of problems. I swear, I turned 40, and these last 4 years have been hell.
Just like, what's going on with my body?
Yeah.
Why is it breaking down?
Yeah, I just like...
Come on up.
Yeah. I'm like, I don't know if I got to take more medicine or like vitamins or...
Supplements are good. Supplements are good.
I don't know.
And I say no, don't take more medicine, but it has its place.
Yeah.
I'm not bashing the medical profession at all.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
My wife thinks I'm like obsessed with the doctors. And I'm like, I really don't want to go, but I'm falling apart here.
See, well, come up there. Put you back together.
I don't think you get a
You're too young to be
You don't have a
that way.
Band-Aid big enough. I'm just saying.
We've got a Band-Aid big enough for my husband. We've got a Band-Aid big enough for you.
So this year you opened up Blossom Intro Health Chiropractic. Is that right?
Yep, Blossom into Health Chiropractic.
Into health.
Yep,
Yeah.
in Bay City.
So what made you start another practice? Seems like you had one established here in Vassar, and it's like...
Yeah. So, long story short, I've had some health challenges the last several years.
See, it's at your 40. I told you.
Yeah. So it was about 45 and started going... but rebounding and doing well. But, and I just... My dad has an awesome practice, and it's busy and it's wonderful, but that's not the level that I want to practice at for the rest of my life. And so I thought I'd just start something small and just start building that gradually and get that set up for me for eventually down the road when Dad will retire and I will then transition full time. Into...
So do you offer the same services at the other location? It's just another location.
Just another location, and I run it differently too. It's an all cash practice. I don't bill insurance.
Oh, okay.
So when I say cash, it's like credit cards, HSAs, and that kind of thing. But I give the receipt to the patient that they can turn into their insurance companies and get reimbursed directly for it. Just because I'm one person and I don't want the hassle of insurance.
Yep.
And so do that, and then everything's pretty much online with that practice. People can go in and fill out all the intake forms online, schedule, cancel, reschedule. They can pay things online if they want to pay ahead of their visit. All those things, they could do all of that on there. I decided to do that because when I was researching, I read that 90% of people 18 to 50, the first time they talk to their doctors when they're actually in there for their first visit. They don't want to really call somebody and be on the phone and do all this stuff over the phone. So set it up that way, have a social media presence, trying to get that established there too. So
Yeah, has that been a challenge?
It has. I have a wonderful woman, Terry Flager is her name, and she is on the board with me of the League of Chiropractic Women, and she has a social media company. So she does that for chiropractors. And I won a contest, so I got her free social media for a year. So
nice.
That's been very, very helpful for me.
Awesome.
So, yeah, and I can still go in and post my own things and stuff like that. So, doing that and just slowly but surely building over there. And
Yeah, that's exciting.
yeah, it is really exciting.
So how do you balance? What do you do for downtime? What's you have a husband?
I have a husband.
You schedule him in the whole mix of it.
Yeah, I pencil him and the kids in. So I became instant wife and bonus mom when we got married almost 6 years ago.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you. It's pretty awesome. And he has his two kids here full time. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just full time bonus mom. We're going in. So our oldest is 21, and there's only two of them. So our youngest is 15, and he'll be 16 in October. So it's just all go.
Yeah, everybody's
right now.
going.
Just like cars and driving and swim team and all that kind of stuff. So that keeps us busy. We like to play trivia on Tuesday nights. This is trivia night tonight.
Do you travel around, or you just do trivia night at the house?
We do trivia night at Jake's in Bay City.
Okay.
There's a guy, he's great, Randy Howell, and he does Jake's Purdy. So it's like a take on Jeopardy, and you'll be in there, and it'll be like, it's a daily double, and you can, two of the rounds. It's just fun.
Yeah.
So we play that. Kate, my sister Kate, comes and meets us, and our 21-year-old comes with us now because she can drink, and so she likes to and is allowed to be in the bar while we play. We like to try and get up north to my parents' place when we can. I just went camping for the first time in my adult life last weekend with him.
Actually tent camping?
Tent camping.
Get out of here.
Yep, went tent camping. Not complete, as they call it in Ireland, wild camping. Actually, some of my friends would call this wild camping, but my husband would be the guy that would take the tent out into the middle of nowhere, dig a hole in the ground, and just have the best time ever. And I'm like, I can't do that, honey. I'm just not that level of outdoor adventure. And he's like, well, what can you do? And I was like, well, I could go somewhere where there's a toilet that flushes. It doesn't have to be my own. It could be in a building, and maybe a shower or a lake. I love washing my hair in the lake in the summer. But he's like, okay. So found a camp spot, went up there, get up there. It's all muddy. Like, okay, so it can be okay. It's going to be okay. And we end up switching campsites, whatever, get into a really nice one. And we've got the tent all set up, and he's blown the air mattress up for me. And I come out with my bag of stuff. And he goes, I start unpacking, and he goes, did you bring bedding? I was like, yes, I did. Yes, I did, honey. I said, this is my princess pile right here. But we had a really great time. So I think there'll be more camping.
Well, that's exciting. Good
future.
for you.
Yeah, so it was fun. I survived the tent. And we like to travel. We like to take trips. So we usually are saving up. We went to Ireland a year and a half ago.
I was going to ask if you went back to Ireland together. Yeah.
Took him and Evan, our son, there. And
what's legal age to drink in Ireland?
It is 18.
Okay.
18, but you could probably get away with it around 16 with parents.
Okay.
So You could have like one.
Is there is it a lot of dark beer in Ireland? Is that
No.
no? Okay.
I mean, obviously there's Guinness, right?
Right.
It's the Bush of Ireland. Yeah, so there's the Guinness. There's another dark beer called Murphy's that Brent actually liked better than Guinness.
So you guys also, your dad used to sideline football for forever, probably, right?
20 years.
20 years.
Yep, he did it for 20 years.
And then are you kind of taking his role a little bit?
I did
out?
for a little while,
Yeah.
but then the health stuff started and I just couldn't keep up with it anymore. And it makes me sad because that was a lot of fun being on the sidelines. And so he started with my grandpa Martin. And they were on the sidelines for a long time. And then grandpa passed away. And then Robin Fabro was on the sidelines with him. And then I came back and was on the sidelines with them. And then he stayed on the sidelines for another year or two when I first got back. And then he retired. And then I was on the sidelines. But I mean, it was always so fun to be with those guys. Like they were just that, they looked at Dad differently than they looked at me. I think, Dad was like, hey, doc, da, da, da.
Right.
And I was kind of more like the mom, like they could be a little more like, it hurts, it hurts too.
Yeah.
And it's really cool then when they come back into the office or you see them sometime and you see them doing well or, get to find out what they're up to. And things.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of a testament to small town, giving back and being involved in your community. And it's like the family members and the fans are like, who's that? Oh, it's Dr. Dan. And it's just reassuring that you guys are a presence in the community. So I know everybody's, when my kids were in school and active, they were like, oh, Dr. Dan, this guy's a big thing. And they're all gone by the time you got there. But it's just that reassuring of that presence.
And it is an honor. It's an honor when you're down there on the sidelines. It's an honor when parents trust the care of their kids to you. And it's also an honor, like you talk about the small town. And that's something I think you don't get in even, a slightly larger town than Vassar or Millington or, those towns are. There were some scary situations. We had one kid, it was at the end of the game, and he just got laid out, and it was the best way that I can, and it was bad, and he came staggering off the sidelines, and he was like couldn't catch his breath, and he'd been hit in the head, and it didn't look good, and Dad goes, call the ambulance, and got the ambulance over there and got him in the ambulance. But I mean, it was a bad concussion. It was, if somebody hadn't been there knowing what they were doing, it could have gone a couple of different ways. And, there was one kid, I'll never forget it because it was just, it was Sandusky. And those boys were big, big boys. And I was like, oh, this is, I just looked at Deb Shamel and I looked at Jenny Whitney and I said, we've got to be ready. And this kid, I heard it. I didn't see it because I was attending to an ankle. And I heard it, and I heard like a gasp. And I look, and I just see Jenny Whitney's running out the opposite way that I was. And I'm like, I looked at the kid whose ankle I was taping. I'm like, you stay here. Don't get on that ankle till I get back. And the kid his parents wanted to take him to the hospital because we're like, he needs to go to the hospital. We want us to take the ambulance. They're like, no, we'll take him to Saginaw. And they ended up taking him to Marlette because they couldn't make it to Saginaw. He'd had broken ribs. I mean, it was just like, and those are the times, like, those injuries are few and far between, but when they happen, they are scary. And you're just like, okay. And then you just hope, like, they're okay. And, we didn't know about the broken ribs or anything until after the game was over and Coach Kiss came up and told us, what he'd found out and stuff. But, I mean, there's just, sometimes I love football. I really, really love football, but I don't know that I'd want my kid playing it because I'd just be such a nervous wreck about it all. But There was another kid. His shoulder was pretty loose, and I took care of him. He was on the opposing team because a lot of opposing teams don't have doctors or trainers. They might have trainers, but if anything happens on our sideline, we'll look out for them until you get somebody over here. And if you don't, we'll look out for them. And so this kid was a patient in the Vassar office, but he was an opposing school, and his shoulder came out. And so he's like, oh, Dr. Sally. And I was like, hey, so-and-so. I was like, what happened? He's like, oh, it's my shoulder. He's like, just put it back in. And I'm like, so I get up under his pads, which as a girl, that's real special in that sweat and everything. I was like, my hand's never going to smell the same again. And I get up in there and I just went like that. And it stops there. It didn't stop. I was like, no, I'm not putting that back in. And he's like, just do it. I'm like, no. And so I called it the saran wrap. Dad has this big spool of plastic wrap. Like literally it's on a spool. And I was like, go get the saran wrap. And so I get his arm like this and I'm just winding it around his body so that he can be stabilized to get to the hospital. But I mean, it's crazy some of the injuries that we'd see, but it was always an honor to be able to be there for those kids. And I miss being able to do that still. It's just not physically possible for me anymore. Yeah. So I hope who's ever taking care of those kids is loving them as much as we did. I'm sure they are.
And loving the smell probably too.
Oh yeah. I said that, I think the first football game I said to Dad, I said, what is that smell? He goes, that's teenage boy. And I'm like, no, thank you. Mom goes, oh yeah. It's those pads. It's those football pads. Yeah.
Well, great. Well, thanks for having us. Thanks for having us today. We're out of here. Woo! Promise we didn't drink any of that Guinness. I promise. So, no, thanks for coming in today.
Thanks for having me.
I enjoy your story. We probably should get your dad in here too. I'm sure he's got never-ending stories.
I'm sure he's got tons.
Does he have a retirement plan for him, or no? He's just gonna.
Blossom men don't retire. So my great-grandpa practiced till he was 92. Mm-hmm. And my grandpa practiced until he was 88. And
wow. Your dad's got a lot of time.
Yeah, so. He's a youngster. He's only 68. He's got like 20 years left at least. So
no wonder you open your own practice.
Right? So. I'm going to be waiting a while here, buddy.
Right. Well, thanks again. Wish you the best.
Thank you, Corey. Thank you. It was wonderful. Thanks for having me.